All right, let's just jump right in. The theologian A.W.Tozer had this message that he felt was just desperately urgent, a message that really gets to the very heart of why we're even here. He was convinced that we've forgotten the main reason we were created, and that's what we're going to dig into here, his powerful call for us to find it again. And right out of the gate, Tozer hits us with something pretty chilling. He's looking around at the modern church, with all its programs and big buildings and packed seats, and he says, something essential is gone. And this isn't some small thing. He calls it a dangerous time because the one thing that matters most has just vanished.
So, what is this missing piece? Well, for Tozer, it's a huge, deep-seated crisis of worship. Let's break down the problem just like he saw it. I mean, Tozer doesn't pull any punches here, does he? He argues that what we're often calling worship has kind of just turned into religious entertainment. It's become a performance, a show, and honestly, not even a very good one. It's an imitation that can never, ever satisfy that deep spiritual hunger it's supposed to. And you see, without true worship to anchor everything, all the religious activity just becomes, well, empty, unguided. Tozer saw what he called a rash of amateurism, where basically anyone could start something, get some followers, and make a lot of noise, all while missing the entire point. It's all action with no real adoration behind it. And this isn't just some internal church problem, It totally changes the picture of God we're showing to the rest of the world. Tozer uses this quote from the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre as a perfect and kind of heartbreaking example. When real worship is gone, we end up presenting a God who looks less like an awesome creator and more like a corporate CEO. So why does this matter so much? Why is he so fired up about this? For Tozer, this isn't just about making church services a little better. The stakes here are absolutely massive. We're talking about the fundamental purpose of our existence.
Okay, so this is the central point. According to Tozer, the entire story of the Bible, from Jesus' birth to his resurrection, it all points to one ultimate goal: to turn rebels into worshipers. It's not just about saving us from something, but saving us for something. And that something is the restored ability to truly worship God. And this distinction he makes is so important. Tozer looked around and saw churches just full of busy workers who weren't really worshipers. He said that any work done without a heart of worship is temporary. It's meaningless. It's just wood, hay, and stubble, stuff that's going to burn up. But when our work flows out of worship, then it takes on an eternal quality. It finally means something. So if it's not entertainment and it's not just about being busy, then what in the world is true worship, according to Tozer? Okay, let's get to his definition. Here we go. For Tozer, worship isn't really an action, like singing a song or going to a service. It's a state of being. It's this internal posture of being so completely captivated by God that you couldn't even imagine giving that affection to anything else. It's all about where your heart's deepest loyalty lies. And this internal state, it's not some dry academic thing. It's marked by these really profound emotions and experiences. He uses words like awe and reverence, astonished wonder, even fascination. It's a heart that is truly, actively, emotionally engaged with who God is. Now, to really worship God, we have to kind of hold this incredible tension in our minds. On one hand, you have his majesty. He's the sovereign, holy, all-powerful king. But at the exact same time, you have his meekness. He's the one who became a servant and humbled himself all the way to death on a cross. A true worshiper sees both of those realities at once. Okay, so that's the what, but what about the how? How does a person go from being what Tozer calls a rebel to becoming a true worshiper? What's the path look like? First things first, Tozer is crystal clear on this. This is not a self-help program. There's no 5-step plan to becoming a worshiper. He says it requires a supernatural transformation, a new birth. It's something the Holy Spirit has to do to wake up a soul and give it back the ability to actually know and worship God. Sometimes the best way to see what something is to look at what it isn't. And Tozer does that by pointing to examples of worship that God rejected. You've got Cain's worship, which tried to come to God his own way, ignoring the need for sacrifice. You've got Samaritan worship, which was all about picking and choosing which parts of the truth they liked. And then there's nature worship, which mistakes that general feeling of awe you get from nature for actual faith in God himself.
So here's the bottom line. True worship has to be grounded in reality. It has to be in spirit and in truth. And what that means is we can't worship a God that we've just made up in our own heads. We have to submit to the truth of who God has revealed himself to be, not who we wish he was.
So if that's the path, then what's the destination? What actually happens when a person or a whole church really gets this? Let's take a look at the outcome. Now, a really common pushback is this idea that if you focus so much on something internal, like worship, you're just going to become passive. You'll disengage from all the real problems in the world. I mean, does being a worshiper mean you stop being a worker? Tozer's answer is a powerful, resounding no. In fact, he argues the absolute opposite. He says that real, radiant worship isn't a distraction from doing great things. It's the fuel for them. The greatest works in history weren't done by activists. They were done by passionate worshipers. And he points to history as his proof. The people who founded hospitals, the ones who led massive revivals, the ones we call the great saints. They weren't just great organizers or hard workers. At their absolute core, they were yearning worshipers. Everything they did was just the natural overflow of their adoration for God. And so we end with the very same question Tozer leaves with us. It's a question we have to ask ourselves. Is my life, my job, my service, all my activities, is it built on the flimsy foundation of just being busy, the kind of stuff that will eventually get burned away? Or does it flow from a heart of true worship, giving it that eternal quality of gold, silver, and precious stones? That's the challenge he puts right in front of us.